Now, the reason that's a significant level is that happens to be the 2017 high. So that's a big point, right? That is a big, big level. And again, if you compare it to the stock market, if you look at the NASDAQ, for instance, the NASDAQ had a much more sharp incline. So to me, that tells me there's relative weakness in Bitcoin. And while I still think there's always going to be bounces along the way on Bitcoin, it does concern me that we didn't see a bigger bounce in Bitcoin off of this level to start with. And it does tell me that whenever we see a big sell-off in the overall asset market, Bitcoin probably is still headed down to 12 to 13,000, maybe even lower. Basically, right now, the dollar is in control. If the dollar has a small pullback, crypto, stocks, they'll all bounce. But again, you have to just wonder, what's the Fed going to do in September when it comes to their rate decision? You have gun-shy investors that are very wary of crypto right now because of Terra Luna, because of Celsius. Again, you don't get FDIC insurance on your crypto account. So then if someone steals your funds, they're gone. I mean, there's so many different things that are negative. And I think one of the biggest ones is there's this regulation that's looming out there, right? We know the judge is kind of deciding about the Ripple case. Gary Gensler is saying, hey, everything but Bitcoin basically is a security. And what the heck does that mean? Like, no one knows really what the rules are going to be if it's not a commodity like Bitcoin. Instead, it's a security. And so I think it's creating this kind of period where no one wants to commit big capital. I mean, sure, if someone buys a little bit here, whatever there, but you're not seeing big money go into crypto right now. And without that, it's very hard to get big bounces.
What do you think they do next month? Do we get another 50 basis points or 75 basis points hike?
Yeah, so I'm in the camp of 50 basis points in September. I think the rest of the year, you'll probably only see 25. I do think that the Fed is talking a tough game because they have to, right? If they all of a sudden started talking a dovish game, what would happen? Asset prices would surge and then inflation would start going up, because when asset prices go up, everyone feels richer, so they're willing to spend more money, right? So he's got to talk a tough game, but the bottom line is that they will back off when the economy gets weaker, and it's already starting. We just haven't seen the jobs numbers get weak yet, and I think Friday's jobs number is going to be really important to the overall market, based on what is it going to tell us will the likely outcome of the Fed next decision be. So I think the Fed talks a tough game, but they know deep down that whenever we get into a recession, if it gets bad and inflation is still, let's say, 4 or 5%, they can't print us out like they have done the last many recessions. And that's scary. Like, the market at some point has to come to that realization that the Fed is not going to swoop in and save the day. And I think that's a big issue that we haven't even touched on yet in the markets. So I think part of the reason Ethereum has outperformed percentage-wise. So if we go to the Ethereum chart, right, if you looked at where we bottomed out, it was around 800 and change. We went as high as 2,000. So Ethereum rallied over 100% from the low to the recent high. Now, if you compare that to Bitcoin, and Bitcoin didn't even get close to that. So I do attribute some of the Ethereum rally to be the excitement around the merge. Now, the question is, after the merge, what ends up happening here? Do we still see more upside? Does it kind of translate into just a stronger Ethereum price or not? My guess is short-term, no. But I do think what the merge is going to do to Ethereum, being slightly deflationary and having other aspects to it, I do think it potentially puts Ethereum in position to rival the market cap of Bitcoin down the line. But again, when I say down the line, we're talking years out. Short term, fear and greed always rule. And I think fear will take over. When Bitcoin goes to 12, 13,000, my guess is Ethereum's headed much, much lower as well. Down the line, Ethereum starts to rebound and maybe even rivals that market cap of Bitcoin. You get a big bounce. The 200 moving average on Ethereum is around 2150. So I'd be hard pressed to think we'll get above that. So I think that's your best case scenario. I'm nervous that we don't even get there, and that maybe we get a bounce into the merge and then a sell the news event afterwards. So it's tough to know. I mean, bottom line is, I think as an investor who, and I love Ethereum, I like Bitcoin as well. For me, it's when we get down towards these lows, when we break lows, if Bitcoin starts going to like 15, 12,000, I'm just going to basically start dollar cost averaging with small positions. And basically the thought process there is that I truly believe in Ethereum and Bitcoin. The other ones, it's kind of the rulings out on those at this point. But those you just kind of slowly inch in, understanding they could still go a lot lower, but knowing, or at least having the probability that in a year, 5 years, 10 years, they'll be much, much higher.
Gareth, when do you think you're going to flip bullish?
For me, it will start kind of around 12 to 13,000. But in all fairness, I'm being very realistic in saying that we could go much, much lower than that. But at that point, I think the downside is limited, right? So, I mean, what's at 12 to 13,000, there's only 12 to 13,000 left it could go, right? So, versus if you're in at 69,000 and we're now at 20, I mean, that's a long distance of drop. So for me, it's a couple things. It's price point. So how much risk to the downside is there in a worst case scenario? And then also it's a matter of looking at what's going on in the crypto sphere, looking at regulation. So I'm a big believer that the regulation, whether it's good or bad, the market just wants to know. Investors want to know the rules. Without knowing the rules, there's no big money that's willing to go in. So you have to get this regulation out there. That's going to be a kicker for me. That'll be where I start to say, okay, now we know what the deal is here. Now we can at least value these things appropriately. And then, like I said, you want to see that fear and panic get to so pervasive levels like it did in 2018, where people were saying, oh, I don't think Bitcoin's gonna survive. We haven't seen that in crypto yet. Yes, Terra Luna blew up. You've had some other blowups, but you're not seeing it to the extent where a true bottom is in yet. So we need to see that absolute fear and panic, the washout of all the weak hands. And then that's where, again, I go contrarian. I say, okay, this is really max pain. Now I start, looking on the bullish side. Redfin today was saying that they're seeing as many cancellations of houses under contract as they saw in March of 2020, when it looked like the world was ending because of COVID and the panic that came with that. So that to me is a great signal. If it makes a lot of sense, right? Because interest rates have surged. You're now 5-6% on a 30-year. That's a huge difference from where we were a year ago. And also prices have gone up huge in the last year. So it's like a double whammy for buyers. And buyers are getting a little, everyone's hearing recession. That word recession is being thrown around. And so buyers are like, I'm not paying full asking, let alone what they were. Like 6 months ago, it was 100,000 over asking. So it makes a lot of sense. Prices have to come down. I think the Fed wants it to come down. They want to make housing more affordable. And by doing so, they'll also bring down inflation as well. So I think you're going to continue to see weakness in housing, especially if we slip into a recession.
That's it for today, guys. If you found this video useful, then don't forget to like the video and share this knowledge with your friends and family. And don't forget to check out the full video, link is in the description. Thank you.